Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
But the big thing I've found is to have a shorter leader so you can cast some fly line out. You're not going to be casting far distances, maybe 20 feet in front of you at the most. So if you have a real long 12-foot leader, then it's really hard to cast it. So I would just have I would take a 7.5-foot leader, cut off 2 feet of it, and make it a 5.5-foot leader, and have your fly pretty close to your leader, to your fly line, so it's a lot easier to cast and move through that pocket water.
That was Kirk Bien dropping a Rocky Mountain pocket water tip. Today on the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thank you for stopping by the show. A good way to get notified when our next episode goes live is to click that subscribe button. Give it a shot right now. Whatever you're using, click that subscribe button. You'll get updated when we drop that next episode. Bearvault has the perfect solution to keep your provisions secure while heading into the backcountry. Bearvault builds a rugged polycarbonate locking canister that keeps bears and other wild animals away from your food. Proper food storage is a key to an epic trip in the backcountry. Bearvault keeps wild adventure going. Please head over to wetflyswing.com/bearvault to check out this must-have solution in bear country. That's wetflyswing.com/BEARVAULT. Bearvault. Kirk Bien takes us into a season in Rocky Mountain National Park. We find out how they deal with bears and moose and other critters, which fish species they're focusing on throughout the year and how to target them, plus his favorite backpacking food. Okay, let's jump into this one and find out what that Rocky Mountain high is all about. Here he is, Kirk Bien from kirksflyshop.com. How's it going, Kirk?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for taking a little time today to dig into back to the Rocky Mountains. We got a lot of people up in your neck of the woods, so we're going to dig into a little bit on what you do with your business there in fly fishing and kind of the outdoor travel stuff. Before we jump into that and talk a little about Leave No Trace, take us way back quickly to how you first got into fly fishing.
I took a guided trip with my dad on the Bighorn River and was kind of hooked after that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So how old were you when that happened?
I was about 10 years old.
Yep. And when did you, and the Bighorn is in, for those that don't know, that's Montana, or is that Colorado?
That's up in Montana.
Yeah, that is the Montana. That's right. There's the Bighorn, the Big Hole. So, okay. And when did you, so 10 years old, so you're fishing, at what point does the Kirk's Fly Shop come to be?
I started this shop back in 2002, so about 20 years ago.
Okay, 20 years. Nice. And what have you been doing? What do you typically, since then, 20 years ago, between now and then, have you been doing pretty much the same thing that whole time?
Well, pretty much. We've expanded. Now we got 3 shops. So we got a shop in Grand Lake now, and then another shop here in Estes Park.
Oh, right, Estes Park. And is that on the Big Thompson River?
It is, yes.
Right. So the Big Thompson kind of flows does it flow out of the Rocky Mountain then into that area that you're talking about there with the fly shop is?
Yeah. So the park is kind of on the Continental Divide. So coming out this side is the Big Thompson River, and the other side is the Colorado River coming through Grand Lake. So we have a shop on both sides of the park.
Oh, wow. Okay. And the park is that a focus for you, doing like traveling into the park, taking people in? Is that the majority of what you do?
It is, yeah. The park is more of our summertime area, and then we fish the Big Thompson in the Colorado on the spring and the fall and the shoulder seasons.
Oh, okay. So summertime. So what does that look like if somebody is coming into, they're coming into that area and they want to go into the Rocky Mountains and do some fly fishing? What would you tell that person to, what would describe that trip? What's that look like?
So like in the summertime, we're going to be more dry fly fishing, dry dropper, smaller streams, up in the park. And we also have options to go down on the Colorado or the Big Thompson River for some bigger fish at that time of year. Spring and fall is going to be mostly lower rivers and nymph fishing.
Okay. Nymph. So when you come up to the Rocky Mountain, if we were going into the park in the summer, when does that start? Like, is that kind of like a July, or what's the peak time to hit it?
It is, yeah. Kind of mid-June through September is kind of the the park time, the little small streams, dry fly, pocket water kind of stuff.
Okay. And when you go in there to the park, what is that? I mean, I know you do these trips. Maybe you could describe that a little bit. I guess people could go in and day trip it as well, but do you recommend doing like overnighting? Is that kind of the better way to do it?
Yeah, the overnight trips are a little bit more fun. You can get a little further back in there. I mean, they're both fun, but it's you can get back away from the people. The park can be kind of busy along the roads.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. That's the whole rule of, like, they say 90% of people that go into the national parks don't go like 100 feet from their car. Does that still hold true out there?
That seems to be very true.
Yeah. Okay. So heading out to the backcountry, and then do you provide everything if somebody's coming in, to your shop and they set up a trip? Is it pretty much they can come there and you give them everything, the camping gear, the fishing, everything?
Yeah, we provide everything from the tent, sleeping bags, all the meals, the waders, the fly rod, all the fishing gear are all included on all of our trips.
Okay. All right. So, and then for the fishing, if you get into exactly, you mentioned dry fly fishing, but what does it look like? What are the species up there? And talk about that a little bit on size of fish and kind of species.
So in the park, we have more, mostly cutthroat and brook trout. And then lower downstreams, we get more rainbows and browns.
Okay, so cutties. And are these, I'm trying to think now, this is probably like West Slope cutties or no?
Well, we got West Slope cutties on the other side of the park, and on this side of the park, the east side of the park, is going to be greenback cutthroat.
Oh, greenback, yeah, awesome. Yeah. So you got the greenback, and I know the West Slopes are pretty good to the dry flies. Are the greenbacks the same? Do they come up pretty heavily?
They are. They're virtually the same kind of fish. They're just a little bit darker back to them.
Okay. So we're going up there, and it sounds like we're going to be fishing pretty small. Are these tribs of the big Thompson River, or how small are the creeks that you're going to be fishing up there?
Well, I mean, we'll be fishing. Yeah, they're all tributaries of the big Thompson, but they're like let's say 20 to 30 feet wide in some areas, or some areas all the way down to like 2 feet wide. So it just depends on which section you're fishing and how high up you get. A lot of them that we fish are like high mountain lakes, so we fish the inlets and outlets on the little tiny streams coming in, and you'll be surprised at the size of the fish that come out of those high mountain lakes into those little tiny streams.
Exactly. Well, what is the size? What would be a good like average, and what would be a big one?
Like our average in the park is 8 to 12 inches on most of the streams, but on those high mountain lakes, you can get them all the way up to 18 inches.
There you go. So, and on the dry fly, which is pretty cool. So you're probably using what, like a 4-weight sort of thing? Is that the setup?
Yeah, 4-weight or 3-weight. We like going to make the fish even feel a little bit bigger with those small rods.
Yeah, 3-weight or 4-weight. All right. And what is the recommended, again, so I'm coming there, like right now we're setting up this trip for June, July, let's just say early July. What do I need to know about getting ready? Is there anything I should be kind of bringing I guess I could bring my own rods and things like that. What else would I need to know to get ready for this?
Well, if you like doing a backpacking trip, people way overpack most of the time. So just the basic, like one article of clothing altogether, I would say, and you're going to be a little stinky, but just make sure you have a warm jacket, wicking t-shirt, long sleeve shirt, and a nice quick dry kind of pants, and then wool socks, maybe an extra pair of wool socks and an extra pair of underwear. But don't overdo it. That's the big thing. It's hard to, a lot of times we have to unpack a lot of stuff, and so you don't have to carry so much up. That's the biggest key.
Right. So you're packing your stuff. So you bring your, one, and don't even bring a change of clothes. Just bring like the stuff you're wearing, and is it like a 3-day trip, or what's that look like? Yeah,
just bring the stuff you're wearing, and then just bring some extra underwear is probably the best way to do it, and extra socks. For like a 3-day trip. And then if you want, maybe only one extra pair of pants or one extra shirt, something like that.
Okay. And do you do longer? Like, what's the recommended length of this trip you do?
Generally, we go anywhere from 1 night to all the way up to 5 nights. We've done as long as a week, but the park has it. They don't want groups in there longer than about a week at a time.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're hiking in, and do you do this thing where you're hiking in with animals, or is this just you're packing the stuff in?
We do both. We do overnight backpack trips. We provide all the backpacks and tents and sleeping bags and all the gear. Or we do llama-packed trips up in the park where the llama can carry all the gear up for you.
That's cool. Llamas. How are llamas different from, horses? Is that like, or not horses, or just like pack mules and stuff? Why llamas?
Well, llamas are allowed in more areas in the park than traditional pack animals like horses and mules and stuff. The llamas, you can't ride them, but they can carry the gear. And the reason they're allowed in more areas is because they got a real soft footprint. It's just like a moose walking through the forest or something like that. Whereas horses can dig up the trail. So the llama is allowed pretty much everywhere a human is allowed. And horses aren't allowed in very many areas just because their footprint is rougher on the environment.
Yeah, and that segues into nicely to the leave no trace, which we were going to talk about on this a little bit. And so, I mean, it makes sense, right? National park, you have a lot of visitors. That's always the challenge. How do you keep the natural resources, in a pristine state, right? When the leave no trace, is that something that's always hot on your mind when you're doing your work in there?
For sure, yeah.
For somebody that has no idea, I mean, obviously we've all heard of leave no trace for the most part, but what does that mean to you? What should people be thinking about?
I mean, it's just pretty much what you pack in with, you pack out, and then you pack out with even more if you find more stuff. So.
Yep. Including like, this is like everything, right? You're talking, I mean, even down to your poop, right?
Yep. Down to your poop.
we had this funny trip up in Canada. This was 10 years ago. I'm sure the Vancouver, or not Vancouver, but BC is different. But we rented some folks up. We did this trip. We were in a remote canyon. It wasn't a national park, but we ended up using one of those poop buckets, right? It was just a bucket. We kept our stuff for like 10 days.
Right.
And when we got out, we were like, okay, where do we dispose of this? And everybody thought we were crazy because we carried our poop around, and there was no place to dispose of it at the time. And that's probably changed, but so it was this funny story. So we actually literally brought the thing back to the U.S. and took care of it. But I mean, what does that look like? Just for somebody that's, I mean, you guys are just doing the bags things, or how does that look?
Right. So we do wag bags, which is pretty much just like a cat litter bag that you poop into. It's a big bag. And normally you have like a little stand that you can sit on that's just like a toilet. And you use that, and then it packs up into a little Ziploc bag, and then you pack it out. You pretty much either keep it in a bag, but then eventually you put it in once you've eaten all your food, you put it in your bear canister, and for your way on out.
That's right. No, and that's perfect. You're doing a good job segueing into this, because the Bearvault is something we want to talk about as well. And so you actually use that. That's cool to hear. So you've got this the Bearvault, which is essentially keeping your food from animals, right? Bears and things like that. But you also use it to literally, once you're done with your food, you put your poop in it.
Correct. So like pretty much you use that so the bears don't get into it. It's not like the bears can't smell the food, but you have that. You put all your food in that for the way up, and then as you eat your food, you normally have 2 bear vaults, and then once you empty one out, you put your trash in that, which would also be your poop.
Oh. This is so cool, because you're totally like almost blowing my mind here, because I do a lot of river trips, with boats, and one of the struggles has always been, we do the poop thing too, and the same thing with the wag bags. We've done a lot of different things. But sometimes you'll get a bucket, right, that kind of leaks. Maybe it wasn't, maybe the top. And that's the cool thing about the Bearvault, right, is that it totally seals up. You don't have to worry about smell or anything getting in or out. Is that correct?
Well, no, the smell will still leak out of it.
Oh,
so the bear knows, yeah. So it's not sealed that way. It's not sealed waterproof wise. But so the bears can smell the food that's in there, and we've actually had bears get our bear vaults, but they haven't got into them. They batted them around. All of our bear vaults have bear scratches on it and teeth marks on it, trying to get into it. So it just keeps them from getting your food.
Gotcha. No, that's cool. This is awesome. So basically, yeah, that's the cool thing. This thing, I mean, literally, maybe you could describe the Bearvault. It's pretty simple, right? It looks like just kind of a plastic container. Yeah,
it's just a kind of a cylinder shape. It looks like a big mayonnaise jar is what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. But it's got kind of it's hard to open. Obviously, bears can't open it. It may be even hard for some humans to open, but no, it's so that's it. So it's pretty simple. So it lets the smell out, but essentially the bears can't demolish it. Now, how would that be different than, say, I don't know, a 5-gallon bucket, right? What would be the difference there?
Well, they can easily get into a 5. It's amazing what a bear can get into. They can open your car door, get into your car and get food, but they can't seem to get through the Bearvault. And what it is it's kind of got like a lid that twists around and it has two little clicking parts that are click one way. So you got to push to get them to open twice. And it's kind of tricky for humans to do. And it's real hard for a bear to do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's tricky at first, but then once you do it, it's super simple. So that's it. Great. Well, this is really cool. So you're shedding some light on this, and essentially for you, you've got to have something to keep the bears out of your stuff. So when you're camping up there and, that night, right, that's kind of thing, where are you putting your bear vaults with all the food and stuff?
So what you do is you just make sure you get it at least 100 feet away from your camp. So you put all your food in it after you eat, and you always want to have like a cooking area that's not near your tents either. So you kind of cook over near wherever you're 100 feet away from your camp, and then put all your food in the bear vault and kind of leave it right there. And then you can go sleep and not worry about the bear coming into your camp.
Right. So, but they will come in, and what's keeping them from just, I guess they pounce around. They're not necessarily, they can't really pick it up and take it, right? They're just kind of knocking it around a little bit.
They kind of knock it around. I've had it moved maybe 25 feet or so in the night. Eventually you find it.
Yeah.
I haven't had anyone walk away. They can't really grab a hold of it. They might bat it around. That's the one nice thing, that they can't walk off with it for a ways.
Right. That's really cool. So they can't walk off, and then they can't really, even crushing it, right? I'm sure they've tried to like smash it. You'd think that they could smash it, but that's not doable either. Correct.
Yeah. They can't seem to, just kind of like, I don't know, it's just the right shape that they can't crush it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to have Grant maybe later on. We'll have Grant clarify the engineering behind it, because it looks, some things, right? That's the cool thing. That some of the simplest things in the world are the greatest, right? And then I'm sure that's part of what this is.
Right.
Okay, good. Well, that makes sense on the Bearvault and just why you need it. How does it go on your pack? So when you're packing that up, does that go just like down in the bottom of a normal, like a big backpack?
Yeah, you can either stick it down inside. What I like to do is they come with also like a little bag that goes around it, so you can attach it to the outside of your backpack, little straps.
Oh, nice.
Strap it on, kind of just like a sleeping bag or a sleeping pad on the bottom of your backpack.
There you go. And that's another cool feature I didn't know about. I have a couple. I have the shorter one. I think they have two sizes, and the taller one. And is it also, do you ever use that thing as a stool around camp, or are you bringing in like plenty of camp chairs and stuff?
No. Use that as a stool all the time, or use it as your cook station. It's a great little tool for all that stuff.
Yeah. So what else? If you give us a couple of little things. So you got the camp stool, which is I've been using it. You got the, like, maybe your cook station. Any other little things you might use it for other than holding your poop or your food?
I can't think of any. Well, I actually will use it a lot on our overnight float trips down to Colorado and stuff. And then use it just the same way down there. Put the food in it at nighttime. We used to always put our food in the boat afterwards, and then one time we had a bear get into the boat, and that's not a good thing.
No, and you guys are doing
yeah.
Are you guys doing rafts?
We're doing rafts and drift boats. That one happened to be a raft. He didn't pop anything, but he kind of messed up one of the containers that we kept the food in. Gotcha.
Yeah. So you guys are, in Rocky Mountain, for those that aren't that familiar with it, I mean, are there bears? Is that a really common occurrence? Just kind of, if you don't do things right, run into them?
It's not that common anymore. We have a bear encounter maybe twice a year with all the trips we do. So it's not a whole lot, but everybody in the park seems to follow the bear keg thing. And it doesn't seem like the bears really come after you camping as much as they used to, at least.
Right. And part of that is just because of probably the Rocky Mountain National Park putting these bear policies in place.
That's right.
Yeah, because there's more people. I'm sure there's more people there, and I'm not sure if there are more bears. Do you think there are more bears just in the area, or are there less bears?
I think there's more. I think they say that the bear population has actually gone up.
Yep. So more bears, more people, and less encounters, which has got to be a tribute to the Bearvault type or any of the products that are protecting and other things. That's cool. So we mentioned we talked a little bit about the poop, so people know how to do that. But what about more on the leave no trace? Is that pretty straightforward? You're coming in here. I mean, obviously this is a big topic. I think a lot of times people don't do it right. I mean, other than bringing out your garbage, how are you doing leave no trace when you're just doing your hiking down, in and out, with the stuff you guys do?
I think it's pretty basic. Whatever you go in with, you come out with.
Yep.
So I don't think it's too tricky, but some people have a hard time understanding it.
Yeah, right. Well, it's probably just the small few that make it worse for the bulk of the people, but nice. So what is I was kind of doing a little bit of research on this, and the IGBC, is that something, are you familiar with that term?
I am not.
Okay. It's, I believe it has something to do with the requirements through the parks and kind of some of this bear storage. But it sounds like that you've had a couple of encounters with the bears. What has been, has there been one encounter that kind of sticks out as a story that you see you've told over the years?
Yeah. Let me think here. I guess put me on the spot here.
Yeah. What's as you're thinking about that, think of because I know you had the boat one. The boat one sounds interesting to me because obviously the thing's getting in your boat. But have you had one where literally the bear is like it's you and the bear and you're seeing it in the daytime sort of thing, and there's some encounter like that, or is it more like during the night?
Most of the time they're at night, and you don't even notice that they're there. And in the morning you wake up, you notice that your bear keg has been moved. So it's surprising how often it's been moved. So I guess there's more encounters that you would have had if you didn't have the food stored well. But I really haven't had any too bad bear encounters. Nothing that's been everything we got around here are little black bears, so they're not quite as scary as those grizzly bears. So
right. But the difference is they say that the black bears, if they do attack you, are trying to eat you. Is that true? Versus the grizzlies, which maybe just swat at you a little bit.
Right, that's what I've heard. Like, if you get attacked by a grizzly, you play dead. If you get attacked by a black bear, you better fight.
Yeah, that's it. So if you run into an encounter, just the normal rule, you just kind of give them room and let them kind of, have plenty of room, right?
Right.
Nice. Okay, and we talked about a little bit, just touched on the fly fishing, obviously the dry fly fishing, which sounds really amazing. And what is it about the Rocky Mountain National Park when you just think about the park itself? There's a lot of national parks in the country. What makes Rocky Mountain so unique?
We got so much different elevation change. The tallest peak is Long's Peak, which is over 14,000 feet. And then Estes here is at 7,500, and we're right at the foot of the Rockies. We got a lot of above tree line up in the park. I think what they say is the park is like a quarter of the park is above tree line, which is pretty amazing. And it's just spectacular, the views that you get around here, and all the high peaks and everything, and waterfalls and high mountain lakes and all that.
How would somebody, if they were coming in, obviously they're going to go with you, that would be a nice tour. What if somebody was on their own? What's your recommendation? How would they find out where to go to find a cool spot to either, let's just say fishing. Say somebody wants to come in, grab their fly rod. How would they know where to even start on the fishing?
You can just pretty much fish any stream once you get into the park. You just need to have a Colorado fishing license. And not all the streams have fish, but most of them do. So the bigger the stream is, it's going to have fish in it. The main areas to fish in the park are Moraine Park, which is the Big Thompson, or the Conowiche Valley, which is on the other side, which is the Colorado River, the start of the Colorado River on that side. And then on this side, we also have the St. Vrain River, and then the North Fork of the Big Thompson. So those are kind of the main tributaries up in the park. Okay,
so if you go into the park, you can almost fish. It's not that hard to find fish, and is that the situation?
It isn't. No, if there's water, it's pretty much going to have fish in it, in the streams at least. And in the high mountain lakes, it's a little trickier. There's over 200 lakes in the park, and I think it's 72 of them actually have fish. So you kind of might want to check with us at the shop, and we can tell you which ones have fish and which ones fish the best.
Right. And how are people fishing the lakes? Is that something where you have to have a float tube, or can you go from the bank?
You generally are going to fish it from the bank because it's just a lot of extra weight to carry up a float tube. Some of the shorter hikes like Dream Lake or Hayaha Lake, which are only less than 2 miles in, you could probably get a float tube up to it. But the fish in the high mountain lakes, they cruise the shorelines. So you don't have to get out deep. They're cruising the shorelines because it's a little warmer water. There's more bug life along the edge. There's logs and stuff where the bugs are. So that's where the fish are anyways. There's along the edge.
Okay. And are you guys doing an equal amount of lakes and stream fishing?
We probably do more stream fishing, but on the overnight and the backpacking trips, we do more lake stuff, I would say. Lakes, but also fishing the streams coming in and out of those lakes.
Bearvault keeps wild adventure going and assures your next backcountry trip is memorable, epic, and safe. Bearvault builds a rugged locking canister that keeps bears and other wild animals and critters out of your food. This keeps you safe, keeps bears safe, and keeps your food safe. You know my classic story I've told, so I'm not going to shed more light on that today. But if I would have had the Bearvault, I would not have lost my backpack. This bucket does it all, including acts as a stool, a pretty sweet stool. They got a couple sizes to meet your needs. Believe it or not, food storage is a key consideration in the backcountry. Bearvault has a few other great features, including the see-through sidewalls, so you can easily get to your food, and a super, super wide opening for easy access. Be the guy who has an epic trip, not the guy who has to hike out early because of poor food storage. Check it out right now. That's wetflyswing.com/Bearvault. You support this podcast by clicking through that link to check out Bearvault.
So, and what would be if somebody wanted to just come there with their gear, they're going on their own, what would be a couple, if you had to pick like, a couple of flies that would be the go-tos up there for, let's just say, is it different? Would one be good for lakes and streams, or would you have two for each?
They'd be about the same. The main thing in high mountain lakes and high mountain streams up here are going to be ants and beetles. Any black ant works great. Any big beetle or kind of greenish looking beetle with a black back works really well up here.
Yeah. And do you guys have any, if someone wanted to find a pattern, do you have any like name patterns that you could find, or is it just make up any beetle?
Yeah. The Schlotter's foam ant is a really good one. Any kind of parachute ant works well. The monster beetle with the little green body to it is a really good fly too up there.
Okay. And we can find these if we go, I guess, kirksflyshop.com, right? You can have, can people pick up some of these patterns there?
Yeah, we can do that. Probably need to call us and we'll just pick them out for you.
Yeah, pick them out. Okay, so you got that. So if somebody would, obviously the good thing would be probably to get, if they weren't familiar, it sounds like, getting a guide is always a good thing, but it sounds like this situation, you don't necessarily, probably somebody could just come up there even without a guide and catch a bunch of fish. Is that the situation?
Yeah, for sure. Especially in the summertime. The fish up in the park, especially the further you go up, they're not picky.
Yeah. And why do you think up there, I just picture it, obviously national parks, majority of people are just sightseeing. But do you find the pressure, the fishing, is there some areas that there's some pressure, or is it just pretty open, not many people fishing?
Yeah, the areas that you drive in, that you see a really pretty looking stream, that gets way more pressure. But if you can hike back up just a little bit, maybe a half mile or so, there's a lot less pressure. But either area, normally you can still catch fish. It's all catch and release, so the fish are there's plenty of fish there in all areas.
Yeah. It sounds like, obviously where you're at, Rocky Mountain National Park, there's bears, and there's bears in a lot of places in the country. Do you focus on this area? Have you ever used the Bearvault in other areas or that sort of thing? Do you find, I'm just kind of to get that thing, like for fly fishermen, people out there, is it a useful tool in other areas?
Yeah, no, all of my overnight trips, no matter where I'm at, I'm using the Bearvault. It's just good for the bears and good for us. Yeah.
Pretty much. And what other animal? You got bears, obviously. Are there other animals? You got raccoons, stuff like that. Anything else that it would be helpful for?
Yeah, for all animals, it's good. Yeah, like raccoons, they get into stuff. And then the other thing we get up here are marmots. And marmots, way up high, they like to get into your backpack and take out peanuts and stuff like that. So even when you're just day hiking, it's good to have like a small Bearvault just to put your food in to make sure that the marmots don't get into your bags.
That's right. And just to wrap this up on the Bearvault, the size of it is, it's big enough that you'd have to have a good size backpack, right, to slide in the bottom. But like you said, you could have the extra bag that it sits in. You could attach it to the outside. You find yourself using both of those methods?
I do. And like there's like a half size one, or like I don't know if it's like a gallon size. That one's easy to stick in even just inside a day pack. So when we're doing just day hikes and fishing, we'll put that little half gallon size or that 1 gallon size one in a day pack and put all your snacks and stuff in it in your lunch.
Oh, there you go. So that's the day pack. Yeah. So you keep your day pack, and then the bigger one is just for the bigger overnight. How many are you guys food wise? Just to picture this, if you had you're taking, say, I don't know, 4 people out on this trip, how many of those Bearvaults would you be bringing?
2 generally. 2 bigger ones for that kind of trip. Yep.
2 bigger ones. So you get all your food in that. And what does that food look like? So if somebody's doing, a trip with you, I mean, what sort of food are you out there breaking out the cooking, bacon and eggs and the whole thing?
It all depends. Like if we're doing a backpacking trip where we got to carry the gear, it's going to be mostly freeze-dried meals, which are surprisingly good when you're up backpacking. But when you're like at home, and I always thought, man, that stuff's really good, and I try to make it at home. Not so good at the house. It's just way better. Everything tastes better when you're out backpacking.
That's right. What are your freeze dried? What are is it? I know like Mountain House is a big brand. Do you have a specific brand you use?
Mountain House is my favorite. So we do Mountain House. I like the beef stroganoff is probably my favorite one. Spaghetti and meatballs is always a favorite. Their mac and cheese is good. So that's what we do for the backpacking ones. And then on the Llama-packed trips, my mom actually makes all the meals on those ones. And then we just heat them up.
Wow. Yeah. So you just heat them up.
Yeah.
Or you freeze them and then heat them up?
And just heat them up and then throw the trash in one of the Bearvaults.
Gotcha. So, and you have you got your backpacking type. How would you do that? Do you have a full size, like 2-burner stove, or is this more still all backpacking gear?
Still all backpacking gear mostly. What she does is she puts them in little Ziploc bags, and then all I got to do is heat it up in boiling water. So we just do a little boiling water and do 2 bags at a time, and just 2 people can eat at a time, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a little bit better food than the Mountain House. So, and then what is that looking like for like lunch? I mean, are you guys eating bars and doing that stuff? Do you have like the protein power bar sort of stuff?
Well, what we do on our trips is we have this food called stewyat, which is also something my mom makes, which is a pizza bread with cheese and pepperoni inside of it, and it's just kind of a big doughy thing, and it just lasts for plenty of days, and it's packed with a lot of energy in it.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
And it's good. Yeah.
How do you spell that? Stewyat?
Stewyat.
Spell that for me.
It's a Scandinavian thing. I don't know how to spell it.
You don't know? Yeah, we'll try to look it up. I'll try to get a video or something in the show notes. I'm always interested because this is a big show. I mean, we're talking one thing with the Bearvault and food storage, but also just the food, right? You're out there. I mean, in that trip we mentioned when we were in Canada, I mean, we literally ate Mountain House for 10 days.
Right.
But it was good. I mean, Mountain House is kind of amazingly good, especially when that's all you have.
Right. When you're camping, it's amazing. That's for sure.
Yeah, good. So, okay, so you're amping it up a little bit. So when you do these trips, you've got some good food. And then dinner-wise, and same thing, you're just kind of unthawing and boiling up some of the food there. And are you able to, now fishing-wise, are you cooking fish at all? Are you able to keep fish?
Yeah, we are in certain areas. If they're not the greenback cutthroats, it's all catch and release on those ones. But you can keep like brook trout and some of the one rainbow or one brown. So on some of those overnight trips, brookies are pretty darn good to eat. So we'll keep them and then eat them, and then the guts we'll pack them up and put them in the Bearvault and pack it out.
How do you find are the brookies more of a lake fish, or where are you finding them?
The brookies are, well, it depends. Like some of the lakes will have brookies in it, but they're mostly in the streams.
Right. So they've just been, whatever they've planted them, as well as brown. I mean, so if you're looking, I would think browns are going to be a little bigger sort of thing, but maybe not. I mean, where would you find, say, rainbows versus browns versus brookies?
Well, so what they did in the park is they've killed off a lot of the high mountain lakes to bring back the greenback cutthroats, because the greenback cutthroat was kind of a endangered species and still is a threatened species. So they'll kill them off to put them back in, because the brookies kind of took over a lot of those high mountain lakes.
Right.
So now about half the high mountain lakes are cutthroats, and then some of them have cutthroats and brookies in it. So they actually encourage you to keep some of those brook trout. And then some of the lakes are a hybrid. They're rainbow, they're cut bows. So they actually encourage you they let you keep some of those too as well.
How do you know a cut bow versus just a rainbow or a cutthroat?
Well, you can kind of see the rainbow on it, but probably the best thing is if you're in a lake that they say you can keep a fish, then you know that it's a cut bow.
Oh, yeah, it's a cut bow. That's right, because it's not it could be a cutty. So again, there's some confusion obviously, because you got cut bows and you got cutties and you got cutthroats. So, well, I guess if anybody has questions, they can check in with the Park Service or probably you guys. Where would you go if somebody wants to get more information just on overall? They're coming up to, say, Colorado, the Rocky Mountain, National Park area, want to go in there. What's the first stop? Is it just to call the national park to set up, because you got the camping, you got all sorts of things, right?
Yeah, they got a backcountry office that you can call if you want to do the overnight backcountry campsites in the park. So you can call them, or you could just call the visitor center at the park, and they're pretty good at telling you where to go
They're
and
pretty good.
when to come into the park and everything that way.
Okay, and those typically are probably almost sometimes maybe a year ahead. Is that sort of thing to get these trips booked, or what would you recommend on that to make sure people can get a spot? They might have an RV or maybe even just tent camping in a campground, right?
I don't think you have to call that far in advance. I mean, that to be sure, that's a good way to do it. But I think you can still do last minute and get in there. There's a few campsites in the park that are first come, first serve. So if you get there early enough, you should be able to get a spot.
Okay. What with those fishing? We mentioned a couple the ants, and that's awesome. The insect, kind of the surface stuff and terrestrials. And is this thing shut off? I guess it is Rocky Mountain, so that the season is short. Is it kind of by October, November, things are closing down?
Well, no, yeah, October, November, it starts icing up, and it doesn't fish. Pretty much stops fishing. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
And then,
so it's a short
and
season.
then we're kind of in spring right now, so we get a little bit of good park fishing here in late April. Then it kind of gets run off in May and June, so it's a little slow up in the park at least. So then we kind of wait till about mid-June on, and then it's good again.
Okay. So right now, what does your daily, weekly schedule look like since it's kind of things aren't quite there yet? Are you just kind of in the planning mode?
Well, no, we're doing lots of trips more on the Big Thompson and the Colorado. Like we got 4 float trips going down the Colorado, and we got about 8 trips going down on the Big Thompson today. So it's actually really good
nice.
fishing on the lower elevation stuff, kind of east of town or west of town if you're in Grand Lake.
Oh, Grand Lake, yeah. And is Estes, is that also a town?
It is. Estes Park is kind of the east side of Rocky Mountain National Park, and Grand Lake is the west side of Rocky Mountain National Park.
Oh, wrestling. Okay, good. So we'll take us there just for a little bit because this is something interest to me just on the float trip. So you guys do these multi-day float trip. What does it look like on these floats? Is this like lots of whitewater, lots of fishing? How does that look?
Yeah, it kind of has a little bit of both. On the Colorado, we kind of have a 15 to 20 mile section of river that we float down. So on the overnight ones, we'll do maybe 4 or 5 miles a day, camp, and then go another 4 or 5 miles, and then camp again, and then go even further down if we've got more days like that. It does have a couple class 3s on it, so that's pretty good whitewater. But most of it's pretty mellow, riffly water and stuff like that.
Okay, so which is good fishing, and that's for these cutties. Well, down there you're not as much in the cutties. Is it more browns down there?
Yeah, it's going to be more brown trout, more rainbow trout, occasional cutthroat, and then we got a lot of whitefish down in there too.
Oh, and whitefish. Okay, mountain whitefish.
Yep, you got it.
Gotcha. So you're floating. Are you guys just floating, fishing? You said you got drift boats. Are you stopping and fishing? Yeah,
we're kind of doing both. So we'll float from the boat and fish from the boat. And then if it's high water season, it's going to be mostly in our rafts, our fishing rafts, in May and June. And then when the water comes down, then we start using our drift boats.
Oh, when it comes down, gotcha. And the drift boat, what do you guys running? Do you guys have a mix of different drift boat brands?
Yeah, we got some hides and some clackas, but all high sides for more whitewater kind of drift boats.
Oh, right. Yeah, you don't have the little, the other style. Gotcha. Right on. So you guys, it sounds like you guys are pretty busy doing, you pack it all too. And, when does your season start on the lower river stuff? Like what you're talking about now? Yeah.
So the beginning of March, right at ice off, it's fabulous on the Big Thompson, kind of right at this time of year, and in the Colorado right at ice off is really a good time.
Yep. So beginning of March. So yeah, March, April, May. So you get a few months there, and then by June you're really planning kind of more like, is that later June, July, August, September? Yeah. So you get 3 or 4 months of good Rocky Mountain hiking in the park.
Correct. You got it.
Sounds amazing. What? Is there anything else? Obviously, we touched a little bit on the fishing. Any other things you'd throw out there as far as, either Leave No Trace, the Bearvault, just kind of people coming in if they're doing it on their own? Any other tips you'd give them if they're going into the park to make sure their trip's kind of safe and great?
I guess the other things that I have is just when you're out in the river and walking through the woods, you kind of got to watch out for moose every so often up here. So
moose.
That's the one thing, but not so much. We already covered the bear stuff, but going through the brush and stuff, just be conscious of those moose, because when they see you, they either run right over you or they run away. It's one way or the other.
That's right. Are you going through the brush when you guys are out there doing the whole like hay bear, or yelling at the animals and stuff or bells and stuff?
Yeah, it's good to be noisy for sure. I don't really do the hay bear down there. And moose don't seem to get scared from noise. So they get scared from seeing you. So, and then they're normally in a tight trail. So if they're facing you and you're on the trail, you better scoot off to the side and let them run past you.
Yeah. Yeah, moose they are the scary ones. That's the ones you definitely want to stay away from.
They actually are.
Right on. So cool. Yeah, it sounds like you have a ton of stuff going on. I mean, with both the river trip and the hiking and multiple fly shops. How does that look with the shops? Are you? I'm not sure on the history. Is this you running all 3 shops, or how do you manage 3 fly shops?
And we just got a lot of good help. So we got like managers on each shop, and they're all trustworthy and do a great job for us.
Yeah, and you have a guy like plenty of. What's your guide system look like? You guys have, I'm assuming, multiple guides. Are you the one doing the guides in the park, or is it more? Do you have multiple guides there too?
No, we have multiple guides in the park, and I do those trips. We have on the West Slope. Most of our guides do float trips down to Colorado, and we'll also do the park trips. And then we also do lake trips on Grand Lake and Lake Estes, and spin fishing trips, and we do fishing for all pretty much. Right.
Are there other fly shops or folks up there kind of doing the same thing? These into the park trips?
Yeah. There's other shops in Estes. We're the only shop in Grand Lake, but there's shops that are further away that come up and fish the same areas.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, let's take it out of here just in a couple of, again, think of that person that maybe they're going to be on their own. Maybe eventually they'll connect with you, but they're up there doing a trip. What would be fishing wise? We got a couple of flies. What would be a couple of tips you'd tell them if they're heading into one of these streams, and maybe they haven't caught a fish? What advice do you give your clients?
Yeah, the main thing is to find water that you can sneak up on the fish well. So if you have real flat water, they're pretty spooky there. Go find pocket water behind rocks, boulders, areas that has a little current to it. If you can get a fly to float in there, and the fish has just a short amount of time to react, they'll come up and hit it. So, and just keep moving. If you don't catch a fish in one spot, just keep moving on up and enjoy your time as you're walking up the stream. So
work your way upstream when you're fishing.
Correct. Yep.
Gotcha. Just give us a quick rundown on the leader setup. Is this important to use a very thin? Are you kind of using like 6X stuff, or what's that look like?
Yeah, you don't have to. Not super line sensitive up in the park, but the big thing I've found is to have a shorter leader, so you can cast some fly line out. You're not going to be casting far distances, maybe 20 feet in front of you at the most.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a real long 12-foot leader, then it's really hard to cast it. So I would just have I would take a 7.5-foot leader, cut off 2 feet of it, and make it a 5.5-foot leader, and have your fly pretty close to your leader, to your fly line, so it's a lot easier to cast and move through that pocket water.
Right. So that just makes it less line to get tangled, or you think that makes you more accurate?
It does. It'll make you definitely more accurate, and you're casting your fly line and not casting just the leader, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the fly line. That's right, because you're only casting 20 feet, so you're casting the line. And are you casting 2 fish that are literally, you're seeing them rise and you're trying to cast right on top of them, or are you just casting towards wood, things like that?
You are at sometimes. Sometimes you'll see fish rising, but most of the time you're just casting towards pockets, little soft spots in the water, edges of seams, behind rocks, behind boulders, behind logs, anything like that will generally hold a fish.
Right on. All right. And we mentioned the leave no trace kind of at the start, and any other, as far as kind of nonprofits, organizations that people can check in more to learn more about kind of how to do this right, or, more information. Is Leave No Trace, I guess they have a website, but any other, like, as far as conservation groups you'd recommend?
I'm sure there's a lot. I guess I don't know any of them, though, offhand right now.
Yeah, I'll put a link in. I think the Leave No Trace has a website on. I'm sure there's some additional information they can get garner there. And then do you have resources on your site if somebody wants to learn more about the streams and map? I mean, is there like a guidebook, or is it just the Rocky Mountain, go to the national park and get their maps?
Yeah, no, we've got lots of videos on Fish in the Park off of our website and some maps too and showing you where to go and stuff like that. You can just check us out at kirksflyshop.com.
All right. And have you guys ever, boat-wise, have you ever flipped a drift boat or a raft out there on your trips?
Not during the trip, but every guide is, if you haven't sunk a boat, you haven't rafted enough.
So you personally have dumped a boat yourself?
I have, yeah.
What was that? Take us there just for a minute, because I've been there too. I've been upside down, and it's a kind of a crazy feeling. What was yours? Was this on like a big trip where your gear's floating down river behind you and stuff?
I did it twice, and I did it when I was in my training, my rafting training. So they take you down through some class 4s and class 5 stuff, and just say, go for it. And I flipped the boat twice in the same day.
Oh, wow.
It was so much fun.
It was, right. Yeah, you didn't have a bunch of gear that was...
Terrifying, but fun.
Yeah, terrifying, but fun. So you have it. That sounds like that's a good resource right there, maybe, before you get into jumping in the river and the whitewater to go take a course on it.
Yeah, no, it's good to have at least crash a boat once so you know what it's like.
You know how it feels. That's what you don't realize. I remember the first time I did it, it happened so fast. So it's probably like an accident, right? It happened so fast.
It's amazing.
You did 1 minute. Yeah. What is that? Is that group, was that a long time ago, or what was is there like if somebody wanted to dig into that resource to take a course on, whitewater, what would that be?
Well, we do one ourselves.
Oh, you do?
A guide class. I did mine through a rafting company because they do even take you through a lot harder stuff than like a fly shop would. So it was kind of fun to learn that, and I wanted to see what it was like to flip a boat and all that stuff and learn what not to do, I guess.
Yeah, right on. So you guys actually have a guiding class now. If somebody wanted to learn to be a guide, you take them through that whole thing?
Yeah, we do.
Right on. Cool. All right. Well, we touched on a little bit of the service. I think I'll follow up at a later point, probably with Grant, and maybe even on the Leave No Trace. I think that would be an interesting, because I'm sure there's some stuff we're not thinking about, but like you said, it's really simple, leave it better than you got there, right? That's the whole idea. Like, if there's a piece of garbage there, pick it up. Don't let your dogs or your animals chew up the trail, right? That's bottom line. That's an easy starting point.
You got it.
All right, Kirk. Well, I think we've got a good one here. If anybody has questions for you, we'll send them out to kirksflyshop.com. And hopefully this year is a good one. Have the fires, has that been an issue for you guys at all over the last few years?
Yeah. 2 years ago, we had a pretty big fire. We had to evacuate both towns, Grand Lake and Estes Park. But at least it was at the end of the year. And now so much is burned, maybe we don't have to worry about it as much.
That's what you wonder. Yeah, exactly. Now that it's all burnt, because it seems like it's not just Colorado. I mean, this is literally, you guys had that freak thing that happened late in the year or whatever that was, but I mean, it's all over the West, right? It seems like everything's kind of burning. So it's almost like it doesn't matter where you are. So hopefully we're in a little micro, whatever they call it, right? And things are going to switch. So give me a random one, Kirk, before we get out of here. So you sounds like you love the fly fishing. This has been your business. If you were going to be going pro in something other than what you do now with fly fishing and the outdoor stuff, what would it be?
Oh, I always wanted to be a quarterback for the Denver Broncos. So
there you go.
That's what I do right there. If I was any good of an athlete, that's what I'd be doing.
That's it. Yeah. So you didn't. So you weren't into sports at high school or anything like that?
I was. I played football, but I wasn't that good. But I loved it.
Yeah. And John Elway, is he still the king?
He is the king.
Colorado.
Hail Elway for sure.
Those were great times. Right on. Okay, we'll let you get out of here and just give us anything else on the Bearvault. Obviously, we've noted that a few times here, but if anybody wants to connect with you, we'll send them to your fly shop. What's new now? It's April, May, June. I mean, do you have anything as you look out over the next year that's going to be exciting that you're looking forward to coming up?
We got a new area that we take people fishing on the North Platte, floating that. That's kind of a new and exciting section for us.
Oh, right.
On the border of Colorado and Wyoming up there, North Gate Canyon.
Right, not the South, because the South is you hear a lot about the South Platte, right?
Yeah, that's more going down through Denver or west of Denver.
Yep. Perfect. That's awesome. You're a pretty amazing area. So we'll try to direct some people out your way if they're coming in and want to hit the national park, and I'll definitely hit you up next time I'm through as well. So yeah, appreciate the time, Kirk, and we'll definitely keep in touch with you moving forward.
All right. Thank you.
So there you go. If you want to check out the show notes, check out the links and everything else today, wetflyswing.com/322. 322, that'll get you there. 322 is the way to go. We're moving along and rolling out of here. If you can imagine a drift boat on the river getting ready to drop into that class 4 where you're a little bit sketchy. You know there's 2 moves you got to make and you're wondering just a little bit if you miss that stroke, if that's going to be the end of the day for you. That's us. We're setting up for this rapid. We're coming down, and it's like this podcast. We're always setting up, getting prepared, and we're dropping in. And this is the section when we just went through the rapid. Everything was clear, everything worked out, and you're looking back and you turn around, you look at that rapid, and you say, "I made it to live another day." That's it. We're on here. We're on the out of it. But the great thing about it is that there's always another rapid in front of you, around the corner. So I'm not sure what that next rapid is, but here it would be that next podcast. And we got a couple of great ones coming up after this, including the backcountry of Alaska. All right, we're going to do this. I'm going to let you get out of here. Click that subscribe button or share this one out or any episode in the past. If you've been liking this, check in with me, Dave at wetflyswing.com. Love to hear from you. If you get a chance, let me know how you found us and what you'd like to hear me dig into in the show. Have a good day. See you on the water and see you online.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.